Welcome to Driven to Lead. I'm your host, Wayne Brandon. In this series, we explore the real world stories of key executives to find the leadership lessons that help move us all forward. If you like these conversations, we'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe and like button. It'll help us out a lot. But now we got another great program for you today, so let's make it happen. Welcome to another edition. We've got a great show for you today. We got Danny Schnaars, the CEO of AmeriGlobe out of Lafayette, Louisiana. I really like this business that he's in. He's in the bulk bag business, and we're going to talk about that. I knew very little about it before I met Danny. He's been 40 years at this company, and he's a great story of succession, family succession over an entire career. And we're going to touch on some of those issues today. They got 40 patents in the company. They're the largest manufacturer of bulk bags in the US. They've got a global business out of Lafayette. And we're just happy to have Danny on the program today. Danny, welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to our talk.
Yeah, this is really cool. I say this often, so for all of you who've listened to the podcast with other guests, that one of the greatest things about this program is that I get the opportunity to talk with people in businesses that I never even thought about before. There's businesses that make really important products that fit inside of things that you never see, or a part of a technology behind the scenes that help everything operate that you never get to understand. And now these bulk bags are something I've never really considered, especially, even in thinking about packaging and thinking about containers and thinking about crates and thinking about pallets and thinking about, all the boxes and the types of containers that are out there. Bulk bags is something different. Danny, tell us about your company, AmeriGlobe, and tell us about the bulk bag business.
Well, I'll start with bags because give everybody a frame of reference. A
Yeah.
bulk bag is basically a 6 pound woven plastic bag that holds 2,200 pounds of material. It can hold as much as 5,000 pounds. And they're used at the beginning of basically every manufacturing process. So if you have cheese on your pizza, or if you have a CD or a DVD in your house, the resin that made the plastic parts of your car, all of those came from bulk bags. And it's crazy to think that a 6 pound plastic bag can hold that kind of weight. And it's actually a little crazier than you would think because to make sure that they're safe, they have to pass a test 5 times that load. So we're routinely breaking bags at 15 and 20,000 pounds.
Yeah. So when you say a 6 pound bag, the 6 pounds obviously is not what it holds. Just for the audience to understand, the 6 pound is the rating of the material. Is that what it is? Is the way the material is woven?
No, that's the actual weight of the empty package.
Oh, so the whole bulk bag itself weighs 6 pounds.
Right.
Wow. So when you're carrying a bulk material, like it could be resin, it could be rice, something powdered form,
Right.
whatever.
Anything dry
Anything
and free
you weigh
flowing.
then anything you weigh, I guess in bulk weight to see what the shipping cost would be, you subtract 6 pounds and that's it.
That's it.
Wow. And and tell me, you were saying when we talked previously that sometimes these bags, and you just mentioned that sometimes these bags get tested at extreme weights. You actually have a device where you put weight in them and you crash these bags in your facilities there?
Yes, what we do is we put the enough product in the bag to get it 95% full, and we hang the bag from a steel rack, and then we have a hydraulic platen that presses down on the bag to multiply the force of the weight that's already in it. So we're literally imposing 15,000 pounds of force down into the bag to make sure that it's safe. And you have to because some of the products that they carry are hazardous. So you don't want to have something unsafe out there on the back of a truck driving down the highway.
Yeah, no kidding. Or, breaking open in the middle of the sea in a container or something. When you say that you have this thing that pushes down, it's like a big press arm, like that pushes down on the bag.
Right. It's a press arm that's attached to a round piece of metal that
Mhm.
covers the top of the inside of the bag so that it
Okay.
evenly spreads the load. And then
Okay.
it presses 30 times at twice the weight, and then it presses all the way to the 5 times the expected weight, or 6 or 8, depending on what type of package it is.
And what type of specification you have. Wow. And you also say you fill bags up in your plant and drop them from various heights.
It's one of the requirements for hazardous materials. So yes,
Are you
we'll
sure? Are you sure this isn't something you and your brother do just because you have like to have fun like you did when you were kids?
Well, we did run a set of those on YouTube where we tried to see
Oh,
how
really?
crazy our test could go, and the last
Yeah.
bag broke when we dropped it from 10 feet up.
Okay, with a load in it.
Yeah, about 2,000 pounds.
Okay, wow, that's amazing.
One of
So,
our competitors actually broke their slab
oh, is that right?
doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing. Good grief. Well, that's interesting, and these bags are used for all different kinds of products. I mean, I guess, do you sell directly to shipping and freight forwarder companies, or do you sell more directly to the businesses that are actually shipping their product?
Right, we sell to the businesses that ship their product. We're basically at the very beginning of the manufacturing process. So a company that makes cookies will buy flour in bulk bags and sugar in bulk bags
Mm-hmm.
and cinnamon or whatever seasoning that they want.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really early in that process. We actually get to see when the economy is doing well or doing poorly based on how the order pattern changes.
Interesting. And you have now developed a global business. So, this has happened over time where you've worked with your father, you and your brother worked with your father for a number of years. Now your father's stepping out, and you and your brother run the business. So, how did this kind of international part of your business evolve?
So there's two different parts of our business that are international. The one where we're like most of our competitors is that in addition to where we make bags in the US, that's pretty unusual. But most of us also bring in bags from Asia and like Eastern Europe.
Hmm.
The part that's more interesting is we've recently developed a way to make bags without sewing them. Every bulk bag in the market, other than this new type fusion that we make, are
Hmm.
sewn with needle and thread, which takes a lot of training and actually a talent. So it's really hard to grow your workforce when
Hmm.
it's a talent-based skill as opposed to just
Sure.
a rote training.
Yep.
For that, we've actually licensed companies in India and Brazil. We've got 5 at the moment to
Hmm.
use this new technology. So we're trying to change from basically a cut and sew innovator to an actual equipment technology company. So
Hmm.
uh, our licensees buy equipment from us, and the equipment is run from our facility in Lafayette. All of the data about the ceiling and the set points, we're actually controlling that to make sure that we don't damage the brand while
Hmm.
it's new in the market.
Sure. Right. Yeah. So you're transitioning to the more automated process, but you're controlling it to assure the quality. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in the U.S., I expect it's difficult to have a very high labor intensive, hand sewn, hand cutting kind of business to make it viable. How do you still make that work? That you're the unusual company in this sector that you still do some manufacturing here in the country.
Some companies have had bad results from overseas, so they want US made bags. Others have trouble forecasting their
Hmm.
needs, so they want the quicker reaction of bags made in the US. And some just value the idea that their product is going in a package that was constructed and inspected in
Hmm.
American hands. But you're right, it is significantly more costly to do them in the US, which is
Yeah.
why our competition largely left.
Now, you've basically been in this business your entire life. You started when you were 15 years old. A lot of businesses, the kids get involved in the business, but the succession plan isn't clear. It isn't something that always, occurs naturally. Sometimes the kids go off and do other things. What was different about, AmeriGlobe and the way your dad ran the business that you and your brother stuck around and now you're still part of it? That's a great story.
Well, it started because he said that we had to work somewhere over the summer, and over the summer became through the school year. But it didn't matter if we worked for our company or if we worked at McDonald's, just so
Hmm.
we worked. But
Hmm.
obviously, if
Good
you
for
have a
him.
family-owned company, it kind of makes sense to work for the family-owned company. So he
Sure.
started us in the plant at the most menial positions that we had, so that we would learn not just how to have a job, but how the company works. And as we grew older and became more mature, we started doing some of the sewing. We started doing some of the supervising. And we just took little pieces of the responsibility for running the company over as it grew. We had some financial difficulties in the late 90s,
Hmm.
and he had to let some of his management go, and we filled those holes, and that's just how we did it. He's famous for saying, "Hey Danny, this area of the company has a problem. I need you to go fix it." And I would say, "Great. What's my authority?" And he goes, "None." He says, "If what you're saying is right, you don't need authority to make it happen."
That's great. So it became like a family joke and a business joke.
Right.
Well, at some point, you must have impressed him enough that you got some authority because you're the CEO of the company now and you're running the show, and he stepped back and let you and your brother do. What role does your brother play?
He's our COO. Uh,
Okay, so
he's run our import and domestic operations for quite a while,
okay.
and his ability to manage, especially the overseas production, is really important.
Yeah, yeah, it would be. So, yeah, this was really an interesting business you have. It's an interesting life story, an interesting family story. And as I said, a product that most of us hadn't considered before. Now we will. Now we're going to be looking for these bulk bags when we're going by a shipping dock or somewhere where this kind of thing is used. So, Danny, the story is this program is about telling stories, and so what I'd like you to do, if you would, is tell us a story so that we can understand some of the various aspects of that and some of the leadership lessons inside of it. So, it could be any kind of story you want to tell. You and I haven't discussed this in advance, so let it fly.
So you mentioned earlier that we have 40 patents, and that's really how we differentiate ourselves in the market. We are in a very much a Me Too market
Mhm.
where our competition gets a spec, quotes a spec, and sells the spec based on a lower price or better inventory or something that most people can offer. What we do
Mhm.
is we try to find a problem that that company is having and solve it. In many cases, they don't even know that problem exists because bags inherently have some issues that need to be solved. So one of our rules is that the sales rep always has to accompany the sample when they bring a sample of the solution in. Just make sure that the bag gets filled, make sure that it gets filled properly, and allows them to manage issues. So one of the problems with bulk bags is because they weigh so much, when you go to untie the knot underneath, that knot is under an immense amount of pressure, and you have to reach underneath it. It's not really smart to reach underneath a 2,000-pound bag unless there's rails and guards set up to catch the bag if something happens. So one of our sales reps was bringing a bag in, and it had something called a remote release. It's a function of one of our fusion bags where you just pull a tab from the side of the bag and the product comes out, which is really handy. It solves two of the problems of bags. So she did that, and the customer liked it. But that wasn't the important part. That customer had a friend who was in a business that's not at all a normal bulk bag target of ours. And that quick release solved a huge problem that they have.
Mhm.
That customer showed that the secondary customer showed up the next day at our plant looking for help. And what he does is his company installs the power poles that deliver all the electricity into everybody's house. In
Mhm.
South Louisiana, we have a lot of hurricanes. We have,
Sure.
tornadoes. We have all the bad weather, and as does our whole region. So companies, when they're replacing the power poles, they're digging a really large hole, putting the power pole in, and then they fill it with a specific rock, similar to what railroads do when they put the railroad tracks down. That rock
Mhm.
has a meaning. It's not just random rocks.
Mhm.
But right now they're using bulk bags and they're having to reach underneath the bag or cut the bag, or in some cases, burn the bag with a blowtorch from the side because they don't want to reach underneath. None of those are are good solutions. So,
Right.
and because the hole for the product to come out is in the center of the bottom of the bag, you can't get
Mhm.
it over the hole where the pole is because the pole's in the way. So we brought them that remote release bag, and now that remote release also has the discharge that's angled to throw the product into the hole, so they're not shoveling 2 to 4 thousand pounds of rock. But that opportunity wouldn't have prevented itself if our sales rep hadn't been there to fill the sample initially. There's countless times where a sales rep doesn't show up, and not only can the discharging or filling of the samples not go well, they may not even be filled at all. So her being there and showing up, that was the deciding factor that has turned this into the kind of opportunity we weren't even looking for.
Amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing story. Now, how much growth has this particular learning about the bulk rock? How much growth or how much incremental business has that been? Has it been significant?
So far, we're in the process of getting the big electric companies to adopt it. One of them seems to have done so. We project that it's going to be between 250,000 bags and 1 million bags in the next couple of years, which
Wow.
would is 1 million bags is similar to the size that we're at now. So it's a
Wow. So
potentially company doubling.
doubling your business. Wow, what a great story. And so, yeah, when you think about that, when you think about the leadership lesson that you and your brother and you know, really can take away from this, this is a was a blind spot of an opportunity that you discovered but you did invent a new bag release mechanism, this remote from the side. Now, does anybody else have that, or is that just you?
That's just us.
And that's one of the patents as you started your story, right?
So the fusion bag that we're doing it on is patented,
Hmm.
and we're working on the patent for this particular
Remote
discharge.
release. Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And it has to discharge out one end instead of falling straight through the bottom, right?
Right. Well, it falls through the bottom, and the spout is actually constructed in such a way that the spout
Oh,
curves and allows you to aim
wow,
the
cool.
product.
Yeah.
And if you've
So
ever shoveled rock, you know you don't want to do 4,000 pounds of that by hand.
I only shoveled it long enough to know that I didn't want to do it anymore. Yes, you're right. I think that any of us who had that experience, absolutely. And so I'm just trying to think about, the process for innovation. Do you have in your company a kind of a process for thinking about the next thing or about innovation? Or was this something that, I mean, this was something that was kind of serendipitous that your sales rep was in the right place, you leveraged the product and someone saw it or heard about it. Do you have a process inside the company where you are kind of trying to create the next thing or create the next feature? With all these patents, I assume that's the case.
So we do it in two different ways.
Uh,
So for fusion, which is the non-sewn bag, that actually came out of an attempt to make a flood control package, a flood control device that we would automate the production of so that we could keep up with demand. We figured out that wouldn't work, so we wanted to know how we could use that technology in another way, and that turned into the bag. And that department the engineers there, that's most of their job is to improve that package, either by reducing the amount of time it
Mhm.
takes to do the sealing, or reduce the fabric weight, or
Mhm.
make the handling of the parts quicker. The other part of our innovation team is our sales reps, because they're the ones that are on the ground and they see what their customers are going through. And all of our patents prior to Fusion were in response to problems that we see at our customers' sites.
So now that you described it, it sounds like you really have an entire innovation process with leaders who are actively engaged on different parts of innovation all the time. I mean, it'd have to be. I mean, what about your competitors? I mean, you say you guys have 40 plus patents. How many patents would you expect your competitors to have in this space?
So some of our competitors have a fair number of patents that
Mm,
are really old,
mm,
like at the beginning of our industry about 50 years ago.
okay.
For the most part, our industry, especially now that it's largely just an import industry run by brokers, there's really not a lot of innovation. And that's really how we differentiate ourselves.
Hmm.
One of our core thoughts is that you can't sell on price, quality, or service because that's something that everybody says they have. You have to find something that's not one of those three.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that's brilliant, actually. So, because these are your product has, in that respect, price, quality, service has become commoditized. So what you're doing is you're innovating on the type of product, the weight of the product, the features of the product in ways that your competitors aren't. I think that's absolutely great. Let's talk for a minute about how do you think the people in the company feel about working at AmeriGlobe, given that you have this kind of uh, lean toward innovation and improving the product versus just kicking out bulk bags like everybody else does.
Well, the sales team definitely likes it because it gives them a lever to
Yeah,
use within
yeah,
their
something
customers.
to sell, right?
Uh, the rest of the team, we're a family-owned business that's a family. We have we're going through a period now where we've had many people that were with us for 30, 35, 40 years
Hmm.
that like my dad are starting to retire. But that feeling of family is still there. Our average tenure is still more than 10 years old, 10 years at the company.
And as you said, a lot of the jobs, even though your equipment is improved and you're innovating with some things, there's still a lot of skill that's involved in sewing and cutting and the things that you do. I can imagine you're not going to just bring someone in and have them up to speed in a, 3 or 4 month period of time.
Right. So when I was learning to sew in the plant, there were some jobs, some of the sewing jobs that I could do, and I worked hard. I wanted to be able to do all the different jobs,
Hmm.
and I simply couldn't, no matter how hard I tried. My brother, on the other hand, could double what the quota was at all of the jobs. So
Wow.
he had a talent that I didn't have, and that makes that kind of disparity makes growing the physical plant or capacity really difficult. And
Hmm.
with the rate that our industry is growing, if it's all based on sewn jobs, there's going to be a problem in the near future because the population is growing slower than the market size of our industry. And more jobs, even in Asia, are pointed towards more technological work rather than this really difficult physical labor.
Now, there's a lot of things, in factories and in production environments that can be automized and robots can do it. Is this something that you're looking at into the future, or is it something that really requires, maybe levels of dexterity and precision that would be hard to automate?
So that is one of the hurdles with bulk bags because the materials are flexible.
Hmm.
Knowing where every part of that flexible package is going to be makes true automation pretty difficult. Right
Hmm.
now, our fusion line is semi-automated. What we do is we fold and gusset the bags so that we can treat them as a two-dimensional object rather than a three-dimensional object. And that change has allowed us to limit the importance of dexterity and talent.
Hmm.
We think at some point real automation is possible, but not easy.
Okay. Okay. So well, we can end on the story discussion here, I guess, but what I'm taking away from it is that you focus on innovation across your business. This created a huge opportunity. This is going to be a business doubling one, but you're going to have to figure out how to expand production beyond where it is today because there's labor constraints, there's a lack of potential automation. So you've got some issues that are going to need to be solved as you move forward. I think that's really insightful. But I think in all of it, in our earlier discussion, and when you're talking about the story, the family nature of your business and the family within the business is still, I think, kind of the beautiful culture that you've created. And I expect that people are pretty proud to be a part of AmeriGlobe in Lafayette and beyond.
One of the ways I know that that's true is in
Yeah.
our plant where, like I said, the work it's difficult, is we have grandmothers that brought their daughters to work with us and
Hmm.
daughters that brought the granddaughters to work with us. So
Hmm.
outside of our specific Schnaars family, there
Hmm.
are several families working within our company. Uh, that's hard not to be proud of.
Yeah, that's a testimony to the work environment, the culture, the integrity of, the Schneers family and the business. So that's what I was pointing to. I was certain that that kind of culture was what you have, just getting to know you a little bit and seeing how you're doing this. And you got to be pretty proud of this business after being in it for 40 years and you're still moving ahead and having a chance to grow and take it to the next level. So good for you. Um, as we wrap up our conversation today, Danny, I typically ask a couple of questions. I'm going to ask you as well. And one of them is when you rewind back, I normally say rewind back 20 or so years, but for you, you've literally been at the company for 40 years. You started when you were 15. So imagine in those first couple of weeks when you're pushing brooms, what advice would you now give to that younger version of Danny if you could? And what one piece of advice do you think would have made things a little bit smoother, a little bit easier?
There's an author named Chris Voss who wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. And one of
Hmm.
the things in there that he says is it's it's okay not to make a deal, but it's bad to take a long time to not make that deal. I think
Hmm.
at times I may have had too much patience, and
Hmm.
I think that that can be a weakness. Not that you should be rash,
Hmm.
but
Of course.
to decide earlier that something is or isn't going to work out.
Yeah. It's been said, whatever you do, do it quickly. That's the phrase that came to mind. And I think there's a real importance to some urgency with things. Sometimes that rears its head just to support your point, when I'm working with companies in that leaders want to have more and more information, more and more data to make a decision. And sometimes it's just not going to be available, or it's going to be too expensive to get it, or going to take too long to get it, or all of the above. And you need to be comfortable making a decision on what data you have, triangulate the information sufficiently, and then make a educated judgment, and then be willing to change and adapt along the way if you see that things are moving in the wrong direction. But to your point, there are some people that contemplate things so long that they actually never get executed. And there are good ideas that sit on the sidelines. So I think that sense of urgency, that sense of make it happen, is really a good piece of advice. So yeah, thanks for that. So let's fast forward the other direction. Say 20 years from now, you and I are sitting having a cup of coffee, and we're talking about our lives and our careers and all the things we've touched. What are you going to tell me you're most proud of?
Well, we kind of touched on it already, the idea that families beyond my own are happy to continue to work here.
Hmm.
And that was largely set up by the culture my dad set up. And I really hope 20 years from now that that culture hasn't changed. I want us to be bigger. I want us to be even more successful, but I
Right.
want people to be proud to still be here and proud enough that they would suggest it to their children and grandchildren.
Yeah, I love that. So your testimony of your proudest moment would be that other people are proud to work there and be a part of what you've done. That's really adding value in the world. I think that's a tremendous long-term objective to have, Danny. Excellent. I think all of us want to touch other people in a positive way to some extent, and what a great legacy that would be.
We really think from the beginning that there's been good things that have happened to AmeriGlobe that just can't be explained by normal business. And we need to share that with the people around us.
So what you're saying is that the law of reciprocity has been working in and around your business over the years, so that you're intending to do the right thing. You run your business with integrity. You run it with a sense of purpose and positive outcomes, and all of that positivity has somehow come back in fortuitous ways to the company over the years.
Definitely.
You know, I've had the great good fortune to work around the world in 85 different countries, lived in two or three in different parts of the world. And I was always fascinated by this idea about reciprocity, this idea of the karmic benefit. You know, whatever goes around comes around. You know, you reap what you sow. And I would ask the questions because I was fascinated about in other cultures what other people believe. And almost universally across every culture, across everyone I've asked, when I've explained what I meant by reciprocity, because they didn't necessarily understand the word. But do you believe that, you know, you do good and somehow good comes back to you, or if you do bad, maybe bad will come back to you? And you know, it's pretty universal belief around the world. I think there's something inside each of us that knows that. And it extends into our theology for those of us who are believers, and it extends into just the, you know, real world experience that we have because we've seen it occur over time. So I believe somehow that's designed into our reality. And the fact that you guys are living it and you recognize it and value it, I think that's a great testament to who you are as a leader. And I'm really glad you shared that.
It's been a great talk. I've enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, me too. So thanks for being on the program. If people wanted to get in touch with you or AmeriGlobe, how would they do that?
Our website is ameriglobe-fibc.com, and we're happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk to us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm sure you are. And I think everyone can see with your demeanor, your personality, and your outlook on life and business that you'd be a pleasure to connect with. So thanks again, Danny, and we'll call it a wrap for now, but let's stay in touch.
That sounds great. Thank you
Okay,
so
God
much.
bless. Well, that's it for Driven to Lead today. We really appreciate you being with us. Share this with a friend or a business colleague if you would. And if I could remind you again, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're very grateful for that. So until next time, always remember the high road leads to a better place.